be yourself, be true to yourself. Start on whatever idea that you have written in those old notebooks. Just do it. Don't care, and it kind of block out that negative, voice in your head that tells you like you can't. Go out at 110%.
Get around those obstacles and make room to create opportunities. You are listening to the Around the Way podcast. And now, your hosts, Kyle King and Kiana Williams.
Welcome to another episode of Around the Way podcast, where we help you get around your obstacles and find a way to redesign your life. We are here with my brother Khalil. How you doing, man?
What's up, man? Doing well. How are you?
Look, man, I'm feeling amazing. How was your week? Your weekend?
Yeah, it's been phenomenal so far. I had some family come in. Mom and grandma came down to visit. Had one of my good friends, like my little brother. He just opened up his second restaurant here in Charlotte called Sosu. So got a chance to go to his soft launch, which was really nice. And now he'll be back to the grind. Nice,
man. Before we get into all of the weeds of all of the amazing things that you're doing, could you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, at the core of who you are, and how you're impacting lives.
Okay. So my name is Khaleel Lloyd. I am a brother. I'm a son. I'm a visionary. I serve as the executive producer at Loyd Visuals. We are a family-based video production company. We specialize in creating documentaries to promotional videos. We're getting into the creative agency space as well. And we are digital storytellers. We represent communities, underserved communities, and we really do our best to tell stories to help amplify their voices and therefore bring about impact. A lot of our impact for clients sometimes is qualitative. So that means that we're able to help them meet whatever goals that they have, leveraging video content. And other times it's qualitative, and it really helps them from a public relations perspective, And so, that's a little bit about me. I'm a serial entrepreneur, so Loyd Visuals is like my first house, and I'm looking to build other houses as well. But I love what I do, and I get to work with my family. So I also work with my two younger brothers, Malik and Najim, and they're also a huge part of the team as well.
No, I love that, man. I love even how you started the introduction. Like, it just says a lot about your character. A lot of times we bring people on, or just in general in conversations, people lead with their titles. I'm the founder of this, or I've accomplished this, or I've done this. Why is it important for you, even in your introduction, to communicate who you truly are?
Yeah, we're human first. And I'm a big proponent of not allowing the organization that you're a part of or the title that you have to dictate who you are as a person. Like, that's two separate things for the most part. You can have a profession, and then it's who are you? Like, who is Khaleel Lloyd? Who is Kyle? Right? At the core of that. And so I thought that it would make the most sense for me to let folks know that, number one, I'm just like you, right? Like, I'm no different. I put my socks on the same way as you do in the morning. I bleed just like, the rest of us humans. And I think that's what just centers me. So it doesn't matter how much I accomplish, how far I travel, how much money I make. At the end of the day, man, I'm Khaleel Lloyd, and I want to be able to serve and, be able to communicate with people on a real human level. And it's not about this hierarchy, in my opinion. There's a poem by Rudyard Kipling called If, and I'm paraphrasing, but one of the last stanzas is, if you can talk with kings and keep your virtue and walk with crowds, nor lose your common touch. And that stanza really stands out to me because it's the duality of being able to be in the C-suite, boardrooms, having a conversation with the executives, but at the same time being able to speak and communicate with, our homeless neighbors on the street. You know what I mean? I think that's really important to me, and being able to not lose my common touch.
You said something that I really like, just about that who you are and what you do a lot of times can be separate. I find that a lot of times what we do is a reflection of who we are.
Yeah.
the things that we choose to do are in some ways like inside of us or like embedded in us, and it comes out in what we do.
For sure.
What parts of what you're doing now are a reflection of who you are? Maybe parts that nobody really knows about, but it impacts the decision to do what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Y'all answer some good questions right now, okay? So, for me, entrepreneurship is the key to liberation, in my opinion. And I'm all about liberation from, worry, from, financial, worries, from stresses, from time, right? Like, I want to be able to own all of that and be worry-free. And I feel like, entrepreneurship is the key to do that. And so because of that and that belief system that I have, it's my duty to be able to create a system and create, some type of business that allows me to act in who I am fully, without having to code switch, right? Like, I think we've all been there. I've worked a corporate job before. I know what it feels like to have to put some Stanley in my voice. No disrespect to Stanleys. I'm just painting a picture. When it comes down to it, there's always this idea that we have to mask who we truly are in order to fit in this certain role. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, at the end of the day, what I'm learning and being more comfortable with is just, falling deep in love with myself, learning more about who I am, and then acting on that. And again, it just kind of goes back to being able to connect that, build a bridge between, the business that I run and who I am as an individual, so that I can create like this synergy between the two. Because I don't want to be in a place where I'm doing something that goes against my personal values. I just don't think that really makes sense. And so I was actually speaking off camera a couple minutes ago, and I was talking about how we pick our clients, essentially, how we like interview our clients. Not everybody gets a chance to work with us because they have to align with our mission, our vision, our values first. And then we have to make sure that the budget makes sense. Yeah. But that's really important to me, is to make sure that, I can create that synergy between who I am personally and what I'm doing on the business side.
So I have an abstract question a little bit.
Okay.
So I like that you focus on authenticity, it sounds like, and unapologetic authenticity. So I think a lot of times the person that we're showing up to be is a choice, like you can choose to be dishonest, you can choose to be courageous, you can choose to be whoever you want to be, essentially. Who are you choosing to be at this time?
I choose to be true to who I am, and that is, Khaleel Lloyd. I bring my full self to every interaction, whether that be with the client, whether that be, within my family, whether that be here in at the podcast right now. And I think it's important just to show up, dressed in, who you are. Obviously, we wear different hats, and it's called a wardrobe for a reason, right? We're in different settings, then it requires us to show up differently. In this case, I'm very comfortable. I've been knowing Kyle for quite some time and respect what he's doing. And so, it feels very natural. It's like family. Had this been a presentation where I got $1 million on the line, then, I might suit it and boot it.
You'd answer my questions differently if I was giving you $1 million at the end?
Context is important. It's important. So, not necessarily, because I think even when I do reach that $1 million, it's important for me to be true who I am getting to that point either, because like all money is not good money. If I have to fake the funk to get it, then maybe it's not for me.
When did you first fall in love with digital storytelling? Walk me through that process.
Yeah. And I think growing up in the age of digital media, right, in the age of the internet and social media, where we were able to, see everything instantly and connect with people instantly. For me, it was early on where I was able to look at, I think some of my favorite videos coming up were like Shada's, Belly, like those are like my top two, the hood classics. Yeah, the hood classics. I love them. Like Belly, the intro scene, rest in peace to DMX, you know, was classic. You know, Hype Williams coming into the club, slow motion. You know, seeing that visually really stimulated, you know, just everything, my senses. And it was like, oh, wow, this is just so raw, so real. Really enjoy, I think one of my top movies is like, it's Denzel Washington and Dakota Fanning, Man on Fire.
Okay, yeah.
That's a really good one too.
That's the one where he's working against the clock.
That is the one.
No, with the little girl.
With the little girl. So he's the security guard.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like ex-military in Mexico City. And he just got hired to protect, you know, this government official's daughter and his family. And, you know, they end up taking her and he has to go get her back. And then at the end, he ends up sacrificing, trading his life for her. Just really cool, really dramatic. But I think all in all, for me, you know, digital storytelling is all about being able to tell a story, tell a culturally appropriate story to whatever target audience that we
talk to me about culturally appropriate.
Right. So that's a big one nowadays, right? Like we are right in the midst of a lot of social unrest right now in the United States of America and around the world. And so what we've seen is a lot of messages from companies that are really not appropriate, right? There's a lot of red flags that we may see from companies and their PR teams, and a lot of times that may come from them not actually having people in their organizations that come from these communities that can actually tell an appropriate message, right? Whether that be from their communication side, whether that be from the videos that they create or what have you.
Exactly.
And what we pride ourselves on is being people from underserved communities, of Black, brown communities. We resonate with those folks. And so when companies come to us, the first thing I'm really asking them is, okay, well, who is your target audience? What is the purpose of this video? What do you hope that it does? We work with a lot of nonprofit organizations. And so a lot of those kids that they're helping are kids also from underserved communities. And it's not, what we're not going to do is exploit their stories for corporate gain. Like, that's not what we're going to do. And so telling a culturally appropriate story gives humanity, one, to the stories that we're telling, and then it also allows us to really paint a picture so that the viewers are able to get a really good understanding of, you know, what this company is all about, who the folks are that they're actually telling the stories about. And, you know, hopefully they can have that emotional pull to know that, you know, at the end of the day, this story is true and it resonates with them. So to me, that's what a culturally appropriate story is. No, it kind of honors, you know, the story.
Yeah. I like that. When you think about storytelling as a whole, what's one story that you're telling yourself that's not appropriate?
That's a good one. I think ultimately it's like the same old, this is the Black stereotype of, you know, what somebody from the hood looks like, right? Like, I feel like at the end of the day, we're a dynamic people, right? Everybody across the board, but specifically folks from the Black community. We're not, you know, it's not a linear path that we're on. We're very eclectic, you know, when it comes down to our different interests. And, you know, so what I don't like are stories that continue to perpetuate the same negative stereotype about Black folks or any other marginalized group. So I think it's very important. I think what we're doing with storytelling is something that's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to evolve, but it's so important because in our industry, you don't have a lot of Black minority-owned companies that are out here telling stories. A lot of our industry are, you know, white males. And so because we realize that, we lean into that. And that's really our competitive advantage, is being able to show up authentically, you know, who we are, and then represent the people that we are actually serving as well.
No, I like that. And, you know, earlier you talked about you're in business essentially with your brothers as well. why is it important, especially as a black male, to continue to keep the business between the family?
Very important. Very important. You know, when we look at a lot of the companies that really set the foundation for, you know, our country and around the world, they were families. So you look at the Waltons, you look at Johnson & Johnson, I mean, from Ford, we can go on and on and on. They're all family businesses, right? If you look at like the top 100 list of billionaires, you got the Waltons listed like 3 or 4 different times, right?
Literally.
But we got to follow those crumb trails. Like, why is that? It's because they're able to split up, you know, their net worth, so that, you know, they're not necessarily at the top of the list, but everybody, you know, has their individual wealth or what have you. But, you know, going back to the question, it's so important that I'm able to work with my family. A lot of times people ask, well, how can you work with your family? And a lot of times I rebuttal, well, how can you work with strangers? Like, why not work with your family? Why not at least try to create some type of business system that can be passed down from generation to generation, right? Now we get into generational wealth. And so, you know, for me, when I graduated from college and went into my corporate career as a healthcare professional, I instantly realized that it just wasn't for me. Like, I could do it. You know, I can put on, you know, the hat that I needed to wear that day. But at the end of the day, it wasn't really like truly fulfilling to me. And so as the oldest of 3, I wanted to allow them a different option. And that option looked like starting a business. And so, you know, in 2015, that's when I started my corporate job. Malik, my youngest brother, he was simultaneously going into App State. And so I pitched him the idea in the back of the van as my parents were driving up to App State. I said, look, bro, like, you know, I worked 2-3 jobs throughout college. I did what I had to do. I skated by. I think I graduated like a 2.5. But I was so focused on surviving and paying my bills that I wasn't really able to dedicate my time to schooling. Like, I want you to be able to do that. And I want to be able to create a business, because he was really, really good at cinematography. So he started winning national competitions in, you know, high school. I mean, this is a kid who taught himself how to play the piano. And so I saw that talent and I said, okay, well, let's go ahead and create something around that. I love business. I love being able to build relationships with people. Najim, our middle brother, he's all into like fashion and urban wear. He's grown his following on Instagram to like 25,000 folks or followers. And he gets these brand partnership deals with all types of companies. And so I figured, okay, well, let's take our individual gifts and let's combine them into one business and let's see what happens from there. And then we just continue to grow. But it was really important for us to be able to build something sustainable that we can pass down to our future children. And so that, you know, eventually like our parents could benefit from it as well. Like, we're in the process of trying to get into real estate, buy a house, move them out to Charlotte and things of that nature. And all of that is being able to be done because we have built the business and created a structure that has no ceiling. Like, being an entrepreneur, and you know this, like, it has no earning cap.
No, facts.
It's unlimited. And so that really excites me. But outside of that, it's also not relying on the system. Like, I don't necessarily have to go into any job and clock in and rely on them to pay my rent, to pay my car note, my insurance. It's all on us. Fair. And so, you know, it's that independence that I feel really strongly about, because, you know, I can say whatever I want to and I'm not going to get fired. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's why it was really important for me to start a business with the family.
Man, I really appreciate you even saying that. As you were talking, I wrote 2 things down: Captain Planet and the Power Rangers. Okay. You remember Captain Planet, like, he had to have all of the different, you know, powers. And then with Power Rangers, if they're fighting individually, there's always one Ranger that fights individually and is getting their behind whooped. And then at the end of every single episode, like my son, he watches it all the time, and it's always the same kind of storyline. At the end, they have like the big Ranger with like the little monster, and then all the Power Rangers use their powers, and then they start working together, but then they win, right? So when you think about that, your brothers, I love how you said like you worked on your individual gifts, or you brought all of those individual gifts together to be able to build what you've built today. Yeah. But kind of using that example of the Power Rangers, when one piece is missing, they fail, right? And then it goes to another scene. What is one thing that's missing right now that's hurting you or slowing down the process of you being where you envision in your mind?
You know, I'm going to take a quote from Moneybag Yo. I mean, it's me versus me. You know, it's me versus me beefing with myself. Because at the end of the day, right, and I say that because I feel like I'm the only person that can get in my way of not achieving that next level of success that I'm looking to achieve. There's no external factors that I feel like can alter what God has already written for us. So I think as long as I'm obedient and I continue to like operate within my purpose, then I'm going to get everything that I want and everything that I'm willing to work for. And, you know, I'm just satisfied with my portion. You know what I'm saying? I only want what I'm willing to work for, nothing more, nothing less. And so I don't feel like there's anything really that is in my way of getting to that next level. I mean, obviously, there's a learning curve in entrepreneurship. There's a learning curve being a business owner, especially when you don't come from a family that has their own business, right? Like I'm the first generation college student. You know, I'm the first in my family to go to corporate. You know, when I graduated college and I started my corporate salary, I mean, I was making more than both of my parents combined, right? So at 23, you know, being a breadwinner, but I've always been that to my family, but I've always understood that, you know, I needed to continue to elevate not only for myself, but for them. And so my purpose allows me to dig deep and really provides me that healthy pressure or that eustress so that I'm able to go out and, you know, continue to conquer what I'm looking to conquer. And so at the end of the day, yeah, it's me versus me.
I love what you said about being first generation business owner, first generation corporate, first generation college grad, because, you know, we share that same quality as well. But I know with me specifically, it added a lot of pressure to continue to keep up for my family. Because even to this day, like I'm the only one in my family that graduated school. So it's like I feel this responsibility to keep thriving and rising. But sometimes, and we've had these conversations, it adds baggage that doesn't even really belong to you, right? So I guess walk me through the process on how you're working through that pressure without it, you know, hurting you in a sense. You know, how are you really balancing the pressure that comes with being first generation everything and those responsibilities and kind of, you know, out surpassing your parents in a sense?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think, you know, for me, because I've always been in this position, I'm used to it. Like I'm used to the weight being on my shoulders. And so I rise to that occasion. In some ways, it makes me who I am today. I think if I didn't have that pressure, then I wouldn't want to have the desire to go out and get it, to go out and go down an uncharted, you know, path. And so, yeah, I think for me, one thing that I constantly do is and I have conversations with myself, you know, and I continuously, you know, tell myself that I am worthy, that I can, you know, accomplish what I need to accomplish, right? Like those positive, you know, words of affirmation are very important. It's like, what are you telling yourself so that you can get through, you know, these tough times, exactly. Right? I also go to therapy, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm so glad that therapy is becoming more kind accepted, normalized in our community now. Because, you know, a few years ago it was taboo. It was like therapy, like what? You know,
what's wrong with you?
Yeah, what you going to therapy for? You crazy? But now, you know, I think we're in a place where, you know, a lot of those stigmas are now not as prevalent, and we can have open and honest conversations about what we're going through as men, right? As fathers, as, you know, entrepreneurs. And so, you know, I'm able to talk to my therapist about a lot of that baggage that I have carried. And, you know, one thing that I was talking to him about is that, you know, I've been so used to being in this position, you know, within my family. You know, in what ways am I taking on unnecessary burdens or unnecessary weight off of other folks, where in some ways that may be their path to that may be what they need in order to get to the next level, right? Like, you don't want to enable people from going through what they need to go through just because you feel like you need to be a savior, right? The savior complex. Nice. And so I battle with that a lot because I always want to make sure the people around me are good. And I will literally do everything for them, right? I kind of had this in my mind where, like, you know, I'm the sacrificial lamb for my family. And so I'm going to do whatever it takes. But I've had to, like, demystify that whole concept so that I am in a place where I can actually help them to the best of my ability, right? I always say, you can't pour from an empty cup. Exactly. Right. And you don't necessarily even want to give from what's in your cup. You want to give from what's overflowing. Right. So you give from what's abundantly there, not just what's inside your cup. And so I was like, wow, like,
that's a good perspective.
Yeah.
I've never really had somebody say that, right? It's kind of like, oh, you pour from your cup. Nah, like, pour from the overflow. So you always keep your cup full.
Exactly.
That's interesting
so
perspective.
You can show it for people, you know, the best way you can. So that's something that I've been learning. And it wasn't until I got to therapy that I was like, oh, okay. I thought I had it all together, right? Like, I always say, you know, I'm my own therapist, or, you know, I meditate, or I talk, because I'm very introspective, right? I'm very introspective. And there's nobody that I feel like that can tell me something about myself that I haven't already evaluated, right? That's not to say that people can't give me criticism, but it's just to say that, like, I've already kind of identified that. So I feel you. Yes, I do need to work on that, but I appreciate it. And I'm gonna get to it. You know what I mean?
So I have a question for you. When you are very reflective, and you do the work. What's something that other people have checked you on that you knew, but it's hard to work through it?
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely have to be anything related to my position in my family. You know, and it mostly has come from, you know, maybe romantic situations that I was in where what was a priority for me wasn't necessarily a priority for them. But at the same time, coming into it, you know, like, look, this is my priority and I'm not wavering on that. And so, you know, I've had many conversations where it's like, well, do you feel like, you know, this is holding you back? Do you need to actually show up that much, you know, for them? And in my mind, yeah. But as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that you can only give and give but so much until you actually need to figure out what you want as an individual. Because, you know, kind of similar to like a running back, right? When a running back goes to the league, they got good legs, they got good knees, and they can, you know, run through them holes, they can score the touchdowns, they can, you know, Marshawn Lynch, stiff arm, whatever the case may be. But what happens, though, is when those running backs retire, their legs start to give out. Exactly. You know, they have a harder trouble getting up in the morning or walking up them stairs. And so one thing that I realize is, as I'm young, I know I can deal with it, but how much of that am I just suppressing, and that's just
breaking me down,
right? Because I can deal with it, that may show up later. That, you know what I mean? That's and good. So, like, you got to understand, like, okay, you can deal with it now. That's fine. You can put yourself, you know, before others, or put others before yourself, and do what you need to do for your family. But how long is that sustainable until you get to a point where you're like, nah, I just want to do what I want to do, right? Like, I want to make decisions based upon what I want, not what's best for other folks. And so that's the place that I'm at now. I'm really getting to a place where it's like, well, what do I want? What does Khalil want? You know, and, well, you know, what type of lifestyle do I want to live? Now that I'm able to, you know, breathe a little bit, and, you know, things are in position, you know, by the grace of God. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
No, for sure. Okay. We're going to go on a commercial.
Okay.
Welcome back. We are here with Khaleel Lloyd, and we were having a conversation off camera, and I'm going to bring it up now. The question was, like, with the focus on family and business and things, do you commit to things other than family and business?
And what I was saying off camera is that those are definitely my top 2 priorities right now. And so in terms of commitment, I mean, I'm not married. I don't have any kids. And when it's time for me to step up to the plate and have the role of a father, which I think is one of the best roles that you can ever have, father or mother. And then after that, I think it's husband. Those are like really big responsibilities. So, when it's time, stepping up to the plate and then commit. Yeah, for sure.
I respect that, man. I think I wish that a lot of people did think through that and actually had that real assessment instead of trying to juggle things that they're not able to give 100% in because their priorities or focus are in other areas.
Yeah.
I've made that mistake a lot. And I've made that mistake in business and in personal relationships, trying to balance relationships, but not being communicative on the real priorities that I had at hand in trying to kind of balance everything. So I guess my question for you is you talked about earlier, like the weight on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And I definitely understand that and 110%. And when you think about the weight on your shoulders and the different things that you're trying to identify within yourself today and just the different things that you're trying to accomplish as a man, as a business owner and as a father one day, all these different things, I have this concept that you have to invest before you're ready, right? And I'm like literally the epitome of investing or committing to something before you're really ready. Like even with this house situation, like I wasn't all the way ready, but I was having a conversation with my parents this past weekend. I feel like me putting down money on a house over this 45-day closing, I have been in straight hustle mode in regards to revenue. And I don't think I've ever worked this hard in my life, but it's given me a reason to. So I just believe, or like, in relationship, it's kind of like commit before you're ready, because now once you make the commitment, it's just like, oh damn, like I'm ready now. Like let's now put all the pieces together to be able to ensure that this works, because I don't like to lose. Mm-hmm. So I say all of that to ask, what do you need to invest in, but you're not ready yet?
What do I need to invest in, but I know I'm not ready yet?
I feel like there's something in your head that I see and you don't want to talk about it.
You gotta think before you speak.
It's very calculated.
Thinker.
Sure. Got to. Introspective. One thing that I need to invest in that I'm not ready for yet. I think so for me, when I think about investing, I think about like planting seeds, right? So when you...
Don't give me the fluff answer.
No. I'm going to give you the real, right? I'm going to take this from like a relationship standpoint, right? Because I invest in relationships, right? I think that's very important, especially like, networking for me, I look at it like sales. Like I sell without selling. I network and I build relationships without intentionally saying like, oh, okay, I need to build a relationship with this person. I let it happen naturally. But the one thing that I do invest in is like making sure that I can build those genuine relationships, because you never know how they will manifest, later on down the line. One thing that I haven't invested yet, I would say right now I'm in that same process, maybe not as far along the lines of buying or closing on a house that in the terms of the example that you just gave. But that is something that I'm looking to invest in as well, like real estate. I think that's very important. And so I haven't got to the place where I'm ready to get pre-approved and put down that money. But when the time is right, when the numbers look good, we just filed our taxes. I'm going to go ahead and make that investment as well. So,
what's something that you're wanting to invest in personally?
Personally, I would say education. I'm a lifelong learner. So I think at the end of the day, you have to always invest in your education and invest in, your skill sets and things of that nature.
Khalil,
What you thinking,
Khalil?
Let's talk about it.
I don't know you that well. I met you today when you walked in, but something I see pieces of me as I talk to you, and it's something makes me feel like you see stuff that you don't want to talk about, but that is maybe more pertinent or higher priority than the stuff that you're naming. You're a go-getter. That's my impression of you.
Okay.
So the things that you want, you go and get them. I believe that probably with like the real estate, the learning, education, all that stuff, it's stuff that you could get right now. You just don't really, it's not like you don't really want it. What is something that scares you and that's why you're not doing it?
What scares me?
Because it sounds like because you're a thinker and you think through stuff, you take calculated risks. What is a risk that you don't want to take because you can't control the outcome?
I never thought about it like that. I don't think there's many things that I haven't invested in or taken that I'm scared of doing. I think for me, one of the scariest things was quitting my job and not knowing where that next paycheck was going to come from.
But you did it.
I did it for sure.
That makes sense.
What's next? Where's your ceiling at right now?
I don't know that I have one right now. Like, I don't know where the next step or the next leap is for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so hyper focused on executing on this growth plan that I have for my business and making sure that I can continue to like fill myself up, invest in education, invest in all those things so that I can continue to, be the best I can for the people that surround me.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, but in what ways do you see some similarities?
I'm a thinker too. I'm very specific about my words and the stuff that I say because words are important and they hold meaning. I'm sure you would agree with that. I see you thinking through your answers, and I would assume that you're probably a private person, mostly because people don't ask you a lot of stuff and you take care of people. So I see that you're giving answers that you're used to giving, and people mostly are satisfied with them because you talk the way you speak to people in a way that corresponds and correlates to what they want to hear. So I don't think I'm telling you anything that you don't already know. So I want to know the stuff that you don't talk about.
Yeah. Well, I don't talk about it, so I wouldn't know.
You know, and you intentionally don't talk about it. Yeah. But, we'll save it for another day.
Yeah. I'll come back and we'll chop it up.
So we got like 30 seconds. 30 seconds, right? 30 seconds. Give me your one piece of advice that you would give somebody.
Be yourself, be true to yourself. Start on whatever idea that you have written in those old notebooks. Just do it. Don't care and kind of block out that negative, voice in your head that tells you like you can't, go out at 110%. And, I think do what the younger version of yourself would want you to do, I think, in that situation. Like, be who your 18-year-old self will want you to be, in that particular moment. And just think about it like that. Like, will my 18-year-old self be proud of who I am today? And, start really making those decisions, make those calculated decisions, based upon, the longevity of where you're at and what you can continue to build, for your family and for generations to come.
I love it. This has been an amazing conversation, a very reflective conversation. Make those calculated risks. Don't think that the weight of the world is on your shoulders. Continue to let that baggage go so that you can continue to flow. Let the baggage go so you can continue to flow and then glow, right? So we're here with Khaleel Lloyd, Loyd Visuals, and we'll see you guys next episode.